welcome to episode 160 of Gallifrey Pirate Radio. I am your host, David Blechamp, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Drew Meyer.
Wow, what a weekend, at least for me.
I'm so glad you included me in something I wasn't a part of.
I talked about you.
Yeah, you did.
And people asked about you.
Sure.
But before we get to that, let's jump right in, Doctor Who Legacy.
Certainly. Well, of course, we had a new episode of Doctor Who, which we'll be talking about, and that means we got new Doctor Who Legacy. If nothing else, we've got some cool new starting art. New icon has changed to be Capaldi. And of course, we have unlocked the new expert levels as well as a easy, medium, and hard versions to go with Series 8. And this week's 100% drop is Danny Pink, who we'll be talking about in a moment. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Have you gotten Danny yet?
Yeah, that's the thing. I did that Sunday. It's one of the few things I did while I was at DragonCon. I had to pick up Pink. I didn't want to wait.
Certainly not.
I don't remember playing the episode at all. I just remember getting the character.
I don't remember it either, but it was, I'm sure it involved Daleks, would make sense, right?
Damn it!
It's only been 4 days!
Yeah, I played it at like 2 in the morning.
Right, sure, yeah. I don't have that excuse. I didn't have con fatigue, but I played it excited. I have him. I've leveled him up to about level 3. He diffuses bombs, which can be really helpful in some of the expert levels. They also released an expert level where you can get K9 Plus.
Yes.
Who, I haven't got him because I tried. I think the first thing the enemy does on turn 1 for the enemy is it creates immunity for 99 rounds, which means you can't poison him, bomb him, stun him. So stun teams are completely out. Apparently you need tanks, and more tanks, lots of life to hold out, and things that can convert gems to pink. But you can find your own strategies for that. But we just want to let you know that, of course, we are still very excited about Legacy and playing it on a regular basis. But more importantly...
Well, tying into a little quick, some thank yous for DragonCon. Got to thank Doctor Who Legacy for the 1,000 codes they let us give away, which was Colin Baker, his portrait outfit, and Clara.
Cool.
Kind of themed it for this weekend. With DragonCon, Colin was the guest. We had Clara as part of with the new season, and we gave away about 500 of the codes.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's a lot of other stuff, but you're giving them out at the end of panels and
such, right? At the end of panels. And the cool thing is, most of the people I gave the codes out to were new players who'd never heard of the game. So thank you, Doctor Who Legacy, Lee and Susan, for that. And I still have some codes, so if you contact us, I will give you one of the codes if you don't already have one of those 3 items. So
that's cool.
So got to thank Brook Track.
Yeah.
They were absolutely incredible. I enjoyed being on the panels. I look forward to doing some more work with you guys. Thank you for the second in command. There was Bowen. I'm getting your name horribly messed up. I am still tired from the convention.
And it's been a busy day at the library.
Yes, and he's the second command at Brook Track. He moderated both of my panels. Thank you again for having us, and I enjoyed meeting your significant other. That was a pleasure because I know that Maya enjoyed chatting with her too because they met over Doctor Who. Gotta say thanks to Alyssa with Dr. Puppet. She let me take selfies with all the puppets that she had with her and was phenomenal on the panel we were on.
I know you were busy at DragonCon, so you didn't see this, and it will be coming out. There was a whole hour special before Into the Dalek that she played on BBC America. It was basically the world tour, but also the fans. A whole bunch of fans were frequent. They showcased them, but she was one of them. So we got to have a whole. So she actually got to be a part of that second episode, which was really cool. We're really proud and happy to have you on there.
And then there was, I believe her first name was Amber Hovell with CNN. She was their sort of, I guess, their sci-fi, their movie, TV person. She was also at Dragon. She was on one of the last Doctor Who panels I did.
Well, that's cool.
She was really, really awesome, great panelist. But I gotta say thanks to Aaron. He's from the Huffington Post, and he's the guy that is he's the third Ducky in the Matt, Karen, and the other guy Ducky face photo. That is him. He was absolutely incredible. He's with the Huffington Post, and we just meshed really well on that panel.
Cool.
I look forward to having him on the show, which he's already agreed to do. Doing other panels with this guy. This guy, I think would fit in perfectly with us. He's humorous. He brings wit and fun to it. And I got to say, the very first panel we did, that was a tough shell to crack.
What panel was it?
The new series.
New series stuff.
Basically, everything around the 50th through Deep Breath.
Deep Breath, okay.
But yeah, those people, I don't think they were used to having such energetic people, because he just looked at us sometimes just like, and it was hard to get a laugh. Because anybody that's seen any of our live stuff, when it's, we have a really good panel.
We like to have a good time.
We have a good time, and these people were just like, these guys were a tough crack, tough shell to crack. But I did drop the moment, because they asked us who do we think Missy was.
Oh,
and, sure. Aaron, if I remember correctly, he said somebody totally new. The lady at the end said somebody new. I can't remember what Dr. Puppet said. I'm drawing a blank there. The moderator, Bowen, had an idea. He didn't want to tell anybody because he thought it was definitely right. It was going to spoil things for people. For me, I said the moment and the room went quiet. They just looked at me like I had just, I don't know, maybe created fire. I don't know, but I'm just going to say, lovely time, incredible time. Oh, how can I forget? I met Vincent from...
I know. I was waiting for you to prompt it, but yeah. So you met Tony Curran.
Yes.
Or Curran.
Oh my God! You have a chance to meet this man. You meet this man. I think he took about 5-10 minutes to talk to everybody in line. He had so much love for that part, for what he's doing now, for sci-fi fantasy. This was his first DragonCon.
That's so cool.
He was wearing a little pendant that somebody gave him of Van Gogh, of Starry Night. I mean, he was so incredible. He signed my Monopoly board. He threw down some of the quotes from his lines from the episode. He signed it both the Vincent and his name. Dude it was absolutely incredible.
I gotta say, wow. I know DragonCon is awesome.
Yeah.
Back when I used to go, it was still big, but it was like HeroCon now was about the size of DragonCon then, if that makes any sense for either of those things. I don't think I could handle the crowds, but obviously that Terry Gilliam was there and that Peter Weller was
incredible.
There. That of course certainly gave me the impetus to want to come, but when you emailed me that Tony Curran was there, I gotta say I got a little jealous.
I think he could probably handle the crowds, because Maya, my girlfriend, she was terrified. She thought she was going to be terrified because of the crowds and everything. Yeah. She handled it extremely well.
Well, you know what? Tentative plan. I'll try next year.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll see. We'll see what we can do about that.
Okay. Well, I think we owe people something from last week. I think the biggest complaint we had in private messages I got was the episode needed to be longer. And I thought we did a pretty good job explaining why we had a short episode while we were talking about Deep Breath, was because DragonCon crunch time had to be ready. So do not worry. We are going to finish our Deep Breath review. We're going to talk about Into the Dalek, and then we're also going to talk about something else.
You have a theory.
At the end. I have yet another theory. I have many theories.
I have so many theories.
Yes.
It could be bunnies.
It could be bunnies.
Or witches. Or, no, wait.
Squirrels. Squirrels as witches. With bunnies.
You've taken the song and taken it to a whole new level.
Oh, there's a song?
From Buffy. Once More with Feeling. I have a theory. It could be.
Oh.
Anyway. Right.
It's kind of funny because Anya was actually at DragonCon too.
She's cool. She's really neat. I've not met her. I've just listened to interviews. Anyway, that's a different podcast.
Yes.
We should... Never. We'll save it then. All right, so...
Deep Breath.
Last week we had only 30 minutes due to our conflicting library schedules. It's just something that the library is nice enough to let us essentially do this.
Yeah.
They may not even realize we're doing it here, but we definitely couldn't go more than 30 minutes last week, which means we had to go short, which is a shame because there was a lot to talk about. So much so that I feel that, we only had this limited amount of space to talk through and all this information that wanted to come out. And I watched our video yesterday, and I did not make any sense. I feel like I was just trying to get as much information out as possible. And I don't even agree with some of the things I said. So I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. I meant that, and so I had all these notes, and I took all these notes, none of which is in front of me now. So it is going to take some prompting to pull some of this information, because I feel like I still want to talk about deep breath. There's so much, and I feel like we could go on 2 or 3 hour rants, but now we have Into the Dalek, and I kind of want to talk about that one, and I'm just so excited for this season. I really enjoyed myself.
I'll say this, I can tell you're more excited about this series than you were Series 7.
Absolutely, 100%.
I can tell. I really can tell.
Well, okay, and let's just get it out of the way. Here's why. Series 7, which was fine, it was delightful, but I'm a big fan of origins and beginnings.
Yeah.
It's like, I always have more fun with characters when they're first starting out than when they get super powerful. Yeah. I like to see the development. And it was always really interesting with Moffat as a writer, in that his origins aren't always linear. There is some he definitely has embraced the timey-wimey aspect of the show. So the faults that I found in the script, some of them are definitely faults. I mean, this are. But some of them, people have talked to me about in the week since we're recording, that maybe I should just give it time and some of the things will come clear. Mm-hmm. But you're absolutely right. As much as I enjoyed Series 7, and I did, cinematic, it was gorgeous, they threw a lot at us, there was a lot of variety. Because of the restraint of doing 2 half seasons, knowing in advance that Amy and Rory were leaving, and felt like there was a pressure to that. No, there's so much to look forward to. Mm-hmm. I have no idea where it's going. I have no idea what we're going to do with the new Doctor. As much as I think Matt Smith hit the ground running, and I do, more so than Capaldi, I'm more interested in Capaldi. Like, I am fascinated by this character and what the potential could be. I also think there's infinite amount of room for error. Yeah. But, so Deep Breath. What didn't we get a chance to talk about in Deep Breath? I think we got just to the bad stuff. We talked about good stuff.
We talked about good stuff. We talked about bad stuff. See, I didn't rewatch it. I haven't had a chance to do what we cut off, because I do rely on your show notes quite a bit.
Well, I will say one of the things that we didn't really talk about. We did mention that you and I both had seen it at least 4 times, right?
Yeah.
I've watched it 5 times, and I will say that the 4th time watching it in the theater was important, because that was the first time I feel that I heard everything that was being said. Yeah. Now, admittedly, not all the copies that I saw were great recordings, and that's certainly not their fault. That was the downloading part. Anyway, but I don't know if it's the score being too loud with a mix, Capaldi being too quiet, which I don't think he is, or it's just me acclimating my ear to his accent. Yes. Because Clara still talks a mile a minute. Capaldi is not quite so much, but I feel like there is some mix that it's probably me and not the show, that I'm not catching the dialogue, and the dialogue is so well written.
See, that's the weird thing, is I'm not having a problem. I did that first time, but then watching the theaters and
subsequent
viewings, and then also the viewing of Into the Dalek, I didn't have a problem. Yeah. I was able to. To me, it was all really, really clear. So I don't know. I don't know. It could be because, but I mean, you almost watch as much British stuff as I do, so it boggles the mind.
Well, I don't know if it's mind-boggling, but definitely ear-boggling. I just really now want to watch it with subtitles. I kind of feel, which I could get.
Well, I mean,
iPlayer has it, right?
Well, in 2 weeks it comes out on DVD, Blu-ray, and that would have the subtitles.
Prior to my watching it Into the Dalek, they showed, I think it was from a 7 to 8, they showed a Deep Breath, and Deep Breath had subtitles, and so that was useful. I did watch that. I feel like I've caught that enough. Yeah. And I've only watched Into the Dalek twice, but we'll get to that. I know there's a couple of things that I wanted to... Yes, go ahead.
Well, one thing I want to talk about is the screwdriver.
Yes.
Because one of the things that was really brought up at Dragon on some of the panels was the overuse of the screwdriver. I got to say, well played, Capaldi, or not Capaldi, Moffat, for not overusing the screwdriver. And it seemed also not to be working the way it has in the past. It wasn't, it didn't open the door all the way. It wasn't the quick fix it normally is. I'm wondering if maybe with the regeneration, it was so close, all the explosions, it too was damaged, and we're going to find that out, and that's why he gets a new screwdriver, because we know a new screwdriver is coming at some point, because it's their number one selling prop.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe we're going to see limitations put on the screwdriver now, and we just got to see where it's going. I'm just really happy that it was not the Deus Ex Machina it normally is.
Sure, but also keep in mind that when you're doing a starting story, you've got introduction of a new character, you've got to introduce the plot, you have to pay copious amounts of time to the Paternoster gang. So maybe the screwdriver, I was waiting for the episode 2. In episode 2, it's only used twice as well. And it's, no, well, it's 1, 2, 3 times.
Yeah, but here's the thing, is like, they usually can, the big thing, the reason why you had the sonic screwdriver in the classic series, or in the new series, was open lock doors.
Yeah.
This time it didn't work, and if you notice, the screwdriver wasn't affecting the robots like it would have in the past. So I don't know, I think there could be something going on with the screwdriver where it has been damaged or limited due to the regeneration. I don't know, I might be reading too much into it. But regardless, I like the solo uses, the non-overuse of the screwdriver, because I think it needs to take a backseat to the Doctor, to the companion, to the story. It doesn't need to be the key that fixes everything.
I'm 100% in agreement. I think it's interesting when you start looking at a script and you start noticing something because of the lack of its use.
Yeah.
The lack of its use actually draws attention to itself. But yeah, certainly. Boy, I wish I had all those notes in front of me. But those were all the notes were the rantings of a madman. I'm trying to think of some things that...
Were there any moments that really impressed you? Let's go there, because I know we talked about what we like, but what really impressed you with the episode?
Well, again, acting and directing,
Yeah.
certainly. Digital effects on the dinosaur to make up for Invasion of the Dinosaurs. The gentleman who played the half-faced man, I looked up his information because I wanted to see what else he'd been in. I really thought he actually stole the show due to his subtlety.
Yeah.
The jerkiness of the motions, but there's the line about the basic nature, lying about the basic nature of their programming, and there's a way he just says, yes, it's cool. That really impressed me. There was something else that I really liked. I just liked the way the parallels in storytelling helped to introduce and kind of flesh out the character. I feel, and I think other people probably would agree with me, that Capaldi did his I'm being a little bit of every Doctor, and in scenes where you could kind of go, he's picking up this person, so-and-so. But it was subtle. It was less obvious than, say, when Davison did it. And I think Davison did a great job.
Yeah.
When calling people by the wrong name, which I always think is really cool, but it might have been a little overused.
Well, one thing is, the one I really caught was when he was delivering Tennant's lines in the Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Okay, we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't talk about the two biggest questions that come out of this episode.
Sure.
One being, what did you feel about the lesbian kiss? I mean, that was brought up a lot in the panels. Some people didn't mind it. Some people were like, just get over it. It's something that happens. They're a couple. I've heard a lot of positives, a lot of negatives. How did you feel about the kiss?
Okay, 2 things about it. Number one, when it was shown in Asia, they removed it completely.
Did they really?
They did.
That's interesting.
This has come out in the last 2 days or so. So that shows that there were some complaints. Do I have a problem with 2 women kissing? Never in a million years. But what I do have a problem with, Doctor Who is notorious for this. And in fact, I think I may have heard the ladies on Verity, they gave it a name. It will probably come to me by the end of the podcast. But it's not an exploitive kiss, but it's a show-off kiss. Did that kiss need to happen in the scene? Not in any way, shape, or form. I feel that they created the scene to have it because the Doctor, tell me a regeneration since New Who where the Doctor hasn't kissed one of his companions or had someone kissed. You know, like, so Capaldi hasn't kissed anybody yet. I'm not saying he's going to, but, you know, Eccleston steals the vortex energy from Rose by kissing her. Martha gets kissed by Tennant to imprint his alien DNA to confuse the Jadoon and the Hemivore. No, not Hemivore. What are they called? Hemivores are from Curse of Fenric. This is a Plasmavore, the Plasmavore. Who's next? Donna Noble kisses him to shock him in The Unicorn and the Wasp. Amy kisses him frequently, it seems like. So it's one of those things, it almost feels like, oh, Clara kisses him in The Snowman, which that was a terrible kiss. I feel like in some of those early RTD instances, they work, but the more it happens in every iteration, the more I feel like it's just something for the clip shows, something to show. I don't have a problem with them. I think their relationship was very interesting because it definitely focused on it, because there's gender roles on there. I think neither one of them act particularly Victorian, which is kind of interesting. They're almost out of time. Personally, didn't have a problem with the kiss, seeing it, but I have a problem with the script of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's interesting to say that they only seem out of place. Because the one character we really don't know the origin story for is Jenny.
It's true.
We kind of have an idea with Vestra because, you know, we know that the Silurians live forever. And, you know, we've heard mention of her talking about the past. So we know, you know, and we know that they come back every once in a while anyway. They wake up, things like that. If their machines malfunction.
Okay, I got it. As I'm thinking about it. So, my wife was watching the episode, and she commented that Vostra really reminds her of River Song, and I think Moffat sort of writes her that way.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about how Vostra is sort of a stand-in for the Brigadier in many ways.
Yeah.
In that Vostra feels like Vostra knows the Doctor better than anybody else on the show right now, even though she says Clara knows him better, and that goes into the weird Clara splinter through time thing. But here's what I'm wondering: to the best of our knowledge, the Paternoster Gang hasn't seen the Doctor regenerate, but when they meet the new Doctor, Vostra says, "Here we go again." Do you think Vostra has met? I know you're already ready to talk about something else. Has Vostra met the Doctor before?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. No, just hit me. Everybody assumes that Clara retained all the memories from the splintering through time. What if she doesn't?
I have read articles, I have listened to podcasts, and this is really a point of contention. Is she a part of Doctor Who's history, or did leaving the Doctor's timeline remove it? Clara says she understands regeneration. Right. But that script is weird. It's a little contentious.
Yeah. So actually, that brings me to two questions.
Two more questions.
Okay, the next one. Do you think the Doctor pushed the guy out, or did he jump willingly?
Okay, this is a very interesting thing. If you had asked me prior to Into the Dalek, I would have said, I don't care. And because I think it's an interesting story idea that the Doctor pushes him out. I think the battle of whether or not he's a good man that we start exploring into the Dalek might suggest that he did. Personally, I would hope that he wouldn't. But after watching Into the Dalek, I am going to say I do not think he did.
Yeah, Into the Dalek changed my opinion of what actually happened in that scene. And I'll explain that when we start talking about Into the Dalek.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the third final question I have for you. Because people keep assuming that when Clara says, "Why can't you just change back?" she's referring to his face. I'm wondering or is she referring to his personality, being the man he was, regardless of the face?
That's interesting.
Because everybody is so knee-jerk on that she has to be talking about his face, that, because even Vestra basically says that. I don't think it's so much the face she's complaining about, it's the personality. Because Smith, you'd probably say, is the good man. He is a good man. He was a good man, for the most part.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if she's not more complaining about the personality, because she does understand regeneration, because never once is she...
All right, so
welcome back to episode 160 of Gallifrey Pirate Radio, where we were talking about deep breath.
are we starting over?
We are not starting. We're
I believe your question was, what is Clara referring to with the need for change? All right, so I think Clara's character is definitely expanding, and I really appreciate that. I think last episode I said that it is possible that Clara will be the greatest companion ever so far in New or Classic Who if they continue the way giving Jenna Coleman the scripts that she's been getting.
Yeah.
I really think like she is. In fact, there is a contest right now that the BBC is putting together. No, what's the newspaper? Radio Times. The Radio Times is doing with the classic, all the companions. It's interesting because the pairings are kind of fun. I meant to send you that to see what you thought about it. Right now, it's kind of like Wilf versus Sarah Jane, and I heard one of my friends is like, well, it's going to be Wilf. And I'm like, are you kidding me? But then again, I forget New Who fan. Anyway, where were we? I think it's a combination of the two. I know it's kind of a cheat to say that.
No, it isn't.
If Clara is familiar with regeneration, she knows that there's a weird time.
Yeah.
But keep in mind that Clara is essentially the reason that the Doctor regenerated. She's the one that convinced the Time Lords to send that. It was her plea. He was supposed to die, so maybe something went wrong with the regeneration, and if it did go wrong, it really sort of would be kind of her fault, So maybe there's some guilt to go along with that. I think it's kind of jarring that he's old, but I feel that, here's the weird thing. How much, when she was complaining about something went wrong and we need to change it back, how much of the Doctor had we seen yet? He hadn't even formed his personality. He was just kind of erratic. He was old and erratic, but he was just erratic. So I don't know if I would necessarily say it was just his behavior. I think there's a little combination of all two or all three of those things in there.
Cool.
So,
anything else you want to say about deep breath?
Gosh, okay. So there's all these great quotes about a good man. And really, as Moffat has decided, I guess via Series 6, Good Man Goes to War. It says, let's see, Kavarian says, a good man has too many rules, and he says, I am not a good man, better get away before you find out why I have so many rules. Or no, a good man doesn't need rules, you better run before you find out why I have so many. In Day of the Doctor, we see Clara writing down, no more on the board. We get it's a Marcus Aurelius quote for, and I'm going to slaughter the actual quote, so I'm paraphrasing here. Spend no more time on whether or not you were a good man, be one, which I think is really the quote that we're going to get, because we find out that Clara had a pinup of Marcus Aurelius on her wall. That was the only, she apparently doesn't fancy young boys, which we find out almost 15 minutes later, less than 15 minutes later, 15 minutes before, I don't remember now, I've only seen the show 5 times, that in Strax's scan of her, that her subconscious is young men doing sport. Boy, I did not. I thought that scene was funny. I understand that it was there to show off the sonic device, but it's a weird thing. Their relationship in this episode is a bit odd too. It's Strax and Clara. Though he does call her Miss Clara on 2 occasions, which is interesting because it breaks the pattern of boy, which it was funny at first, and then it stopped being funny, and then it's kind of coming back to being funny again because they're, it's like if they do an improv. If you're going to do something, stick with it. So, so good man. That'll come back into play, I'm sure. We'll get a lot of
Well, I mean, come on. It's in the dialect. I mean, he comes back right away.
That's what I'm saying. It's a gentle. Couple of things. Yeah, there are some scenes that go on too long. I think there's some scenes. I feel like there's a couple of weird scenes that I would have wanted to argue are that just don't go together. For instance, we talk about the Doctor being. There's a lot of stress on, even if he has a different face, he's still the Doctor.
Yeah.
But the Doctor then, when talking to the half-faced man, does the broom analogy, and he says, and I'm not going to do it with this Scottish accent, you have a broom, you replace the handle, then a couple of years later you replace the brush, and do it over and over again. Is it the same, the broom? To me, you're thinking, oh, well, the answer should be yes, because even though you replace the body of the Doctor, it should still be the same Doctor. But he says no. So it's interesting what kind of a Doctor that we're getting. The argument could be made that he just counter-argued everything that Vostra, Jenny, and Clara had been discussing.
Well, I mean, I think the thing is, I mean, if you look at the 5 Doctors, if you look at the 3 Doctors, if you look at the 2 Doctors, you can see that they are vastly different. They're not the same. Even though they're the same man, they're not the same man. I mean, not just physically, but also personality-wise. And I think that's the analogy he's going for. He's not the same man he was before. He's never the same man.
Okay, and this is where we get into what makes the Doctor the Doctor.
Yeah.
Is there an inherent Doctor-ness that, regardless of the personality, that they're always same parts? They're never cruel or cowardly. Never back down, never surrender. Like, is that what the Doctor is with a different personality? It remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Moffat is going to surprise us or not, or something. There's probably more stuff that I could talk about, but
let's get into the dialect.
I want to talk about it.
Let's get into the dialect. The dialect.
Do you want to? Okay. I want to rate both of them at the end.
Okay, go.
In comparison to one another.
Okay.
Really.
Okay. And what did you like?
Boy. Okay. This surprised me in that I liked it. Usually, if it has a Dalek in it, I'm almost immediately gonna like it less. I did, but it's interesting is I liked it in spite of the Daleks. What did I like? I liked all interactions with Clara. I liked all interactions with the Doctor. I loved Danny Pink. I'm really excited to get Danny Pink on as a series regular. That's what I liked about it.
Oh. I just saw something.
What do you think of?
Well, I was thinking, what is a Doctor going to think when he finds out that Danny is a soldier?
Yeah,
that just hit me. I'm just like,
really? Oh, but that's the crux of the final line. Because
I know.
He said, I thought you'd have something against soldiers. No, not me. Yeah.
But the fact that he's going to be coming on to the TARDIS and things like that.
Shall we talk about Danny?
Let's talk about Danny.
Okay, so here's a couple of things. I think it's interesting that we have an ex-soldier. We're definitely going to learn more about his backstory.
Oh yeah.
It's very interesting how everyone sees him as a soldier and as something where it's very obvious to the audience that he is the opposite of those things.
Yeah.
He's a character who everyone's like, obviously a lady killer, and he's like, he denies it. But we do know he did kill somebody.
Oh yeah.
And we do know that perhaps the person he killed was not a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering how apt the term lady killer is. And I'm wondering if this is one of those casualties of war that he either killed a woman or a child, and maybe he's on this redemptive path. Which, by the way, I think, even though the Doctor is going to probably give him a lot of crap early on, I think the parallel will be drawn between their two origins.
Well, ask me if I still think Danny is who I think he is.
Do you still think Danny is the master?
I still think there's potential for him to still be the master. Because the way Moffat writes, I mean, we know the master is killed. He's killed many people. Many. And we know that he did go to war, with the Time Lords, and we know he probably killed lots of people there. What if this is a master that's trying to redeem himself? Or, because some people have stated that maybe Missy is Romana. And you can't have 3 good Time Lords all hanging out together. What if Romana went bad,
the master went good?
Or what if the master is the one who killed Romana, forcing her to regenerate? turning her bad, why he is now trying to redeem himself. Because we do know that the original story before the actor died, Delgado, was he was going to try to redeem the Master and save the day and save the Doctor's life.
Yeah.
You know, and would I put it past Moffat to try to weave such an insane and insane story around? No. I mean, this feels like it could easily be Moffat, but I still think the moment's missing, and I still think, honestly, I can make a case either way now for Danny Pink if he's the Master or not.
I think it's interesting that with a character like Clara, they're not even hiding the fact that Danny is the potential love interest, which would be, I guess Amy and Rory technically left the TARDIS for one another.
Mm-hmm.
Rose sucked into another portal, Martha to pursue her career, Donna, weird brain space thing. So it'd be interesting because we haven't really had we married them off kind of thing. I still don't, I'm hoping it's not as simple as that, but it could very well be. And while I was watching the episode last night for the second time with my wife, she commented, because this is written by Phil Ford and of course directed by Ben Wheatley, but Ford gets a co-credit with Moffat, and if you read the articles, it kind of explains why. Obviously, Ford didn't know what Doctor he was writing for, and they had to add the Missy stuff after the fact, and the Danny Pink stuff after the fact. So that's kind of where Moffat comes in. Megan was watching it, and she just goes, "Yeah, this part's written by Moffat. This is very, very coupling in these things." But you want to say something?
No, I just saw something. I just hope Moffat, please, for the love of God, don't bring Danny Pink in there just so he can die saving Clara's life.
Yeah.
I mean, I can already see it happening, redeeming him. I don't want to see it. Would it be interesting, if the rumors are true, what if Clara dies saving Danny's life? Because honestly, we don't need to marry these two off. I think Clara, in a way, is just, she sees a wounded person, and she's just instantly drawn to him and flirts with him. Because look, I mean, she ran to the Doctor who was injured and wounded at the time, in a sense. Sure. Danny is a wounded and damaged character. Maybe she's just drawn to those types of people.
It could, and I actually know several teachers who fall into that category too. Not that they see their students as wounded, but the need to take care of. Yes, so let's maybe, instead of trying to figure out what's going to happen in the future, let's actually talk about the episode. Okay, so I'm not a huge... Okay, I like the idea of a sci-fi pastiche of going into the Dalek. I think that's a very clever idea. I thought the antibodies were great. I love seeing What's-His-Face from Game of Thrones in there, even if he was in there for a very brief moment. I thought Journey Blue was okay, but kind of a bland, yelly, shouty character. Oh, but I do like this. So... we see Matt Smith as the Doctor. Instantly we know madman of the box, flaily arms, talked fast kind of a Doctor. But one of the things that I think we are going to see, and I'm actually really excited about this for Capaldi, is that his Doctor is the guy who just can't bother to remember names. And I like this guy, like the idea of going, this is one with a gun, without a gun, might have been an uncle, I don't know. I couldn't make it up at the time, who knows, more interesting. The green one, the not green one, you're about the same height, that he is so far above humanity that he bases us off of shape and things we're holding in our hands.
You see, I can almost see a younger Hartnell being like that.
I think he's very Hartnell. In fact, there's a direct Hartnell reference in this one that I thought was really excellent. Because, in the story, which we will call An Unearthly Child, including all 4 episodes, including the Cave of Skulls and 100,000 BC, the Doctor infamously goes to brain somebody with a skull. So much so that the action figure, there's got an action figure of him that comes with the TARDIS, where it's just the Doctor with a cane, and the other thing he gets is a skull in his hand, which I think is brilliant. But he says, as he's inside of Rusty, and we'll talk about Rusty here in a moment, inside of Rusty's body, and he's kind of doing his things, he said, I just started off running away, but then I went to Skaro. And even though I called myself the Doctor, it wasn't until Skaro and I met you lot that I realized who the Doctor was and what the Doctor wasn't. Meeting the Daleks made him realize who the Doctor wasn't. And I thought, that's really cool, because we have this it's kind of at the end of that six-parter, right? That the Doctor mellows out a little bit.
He does.
And it's kind of like, oh, I know it's retconning. And
Of course we have Edge of Destruction where he goes the opposite direction right away.
Right, but that's not the Doctor's decision to do that. That's the wonkiness.
Yeah.
But
definitely by the censor rights, he definitely, there was that sense of continuity that we talked about. And I definitely think he was much mellower. I remember that. He's definitely much more mellower.
Sure.
Yeah.
So direct causal links to having meeting the Daleks is what kind of pushed him on this path, which I think is cool because I understand that technically without the Daleks we wouldn't have Doctor Who. It probably wouldn't have gone past the first season.
Right.
The Daleks, which is I personally think is a shame because I'm so bored with them. But they did something with the Daleks we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, and I thought it was great.
Yeah. I thought the Dalek aspects of it were okay. I thought the special effects were really well done.
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem with the pew-pew lasers because every time they jerk their guns up, the laser still went straight. But that's such a nitpick as to be dumb. I love the antibodies. I thought that was a brilliant idea.
Yes.
There's that great scene with the Doctor. You think he's saving Ross, but what he's doing is just handing him the radiation signature so they can track him. He uses his sonic screwdriver to unscrew something.
Yeah.
It's a bolt hole. Doesn't anybody get it? So that's cool. What did I get? Most of the stuff that I liked specifically were the interpersonal relationships. It almost had nothing to do with the plot.
Well, I mean, this all goes back to, the question that we're going to be asking ourselves, I think, throughout the entire series. Is he a good man?
Yeah.
This is where we finally get the full question. Be a pal, Clara, and tell me, am I a good man? I mean, I love that line, and I love the fact that, at the end of the episode, she tries to answer it. She says, yeah, you're both a good and a bad man, but I think you tried to do the right thing this time.
Well, yeah, that's the important thing is not you trying to be, but we have this beautiful comparison with the Dalek, you're not a good Dalek, you Doctor are a good Dalek. And I like that. It harkens back to the Asylum of the Daleks. It harkens back to Dalek,
all the way back to power and evil.
Well, yeah, and actually, this episode reminded me of two episodes. One, again, it felt like a classic episode, and I really liked that. And I know that some people complained about pacing in Deep Breath. There are people online. I loved it. I would have liked to have seen this episode go a little longer, actually. I think.
Wow, I'm kind of shocked.
But not because of the Daleks. I like this 60-minute, if like solid 60 minutes would be really cool for me. I think I would dig that. Two episodes reminded me of. This felt like a continuation of Genesis of the Daleks in that...
I've heard that quite a bit.
Just because it felt like he had this moment to disavow all Daleks, but what he did is realize that if there was a way to change the Daleks, that it was worth trying. And it reminded me of The Beast Below.
I've heard that too.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm fine with other people having the same opinion as I. But yeah, you've got, your second story, you go into space. The third story will go into the past. You're going into a larger creature, the star whale, and then the Dalek. They slide down a tube and get covered in slime. The companion making a choice. I like the Clara slap. I think so. Megan, my wife, mentioned this. What she really doesn't like about the companions in prior seasons of Doctor Who is the doe-eyed eagerness to worship the Doctor as something better. Clara is keeping the Doctor slightly at arm's length, but she doesn't mind telling him off. And this makes for such a better relationship, and it feels like a classic Doctor.
What did he call her?
His
carer. Yes, I take care of him when he needs.
No, it's just like she cares when I can't or don't want to or something like that. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And I think she's not my assistant.
Yeah. Okay, we are starting to run out of time here.
I know.
So we're gonna have to talk a little bit about some aspects of Into the Dialogue next time because I think it's gonna tie in together.
Can we briefly talk about Missy?
I would.
You want to save it until next
I think
time?
we need to save that to next time because then we'll have 3 to talk about.
Oh, 3 examples. Oh, well,
Right.
If you watched the next episode,
No.
okay, you haven't.
No.
We did watch the work print of it too, and there is a scene that it was deleted from the Into the Dalek. If you go out and find the work print of Into the Dalek, you can watch it. It's not huge, but it's certainly interesting.
But I want to talk about Capaldi's face. Because everybody keeps talking about it, why does he look like, why does he look like, why does he look like, past characters we've had on the show? And they said they were going to sort of bring it up. Well, we do know one thing, the Doctor can choose his face. We've known that since the from the second regeneration into the third, the time where he's forced him to choose. We know that in Day of the Doctor, when he meets your great curator, he says, sometimes you might decide to go back to an old favorite. I do think Baker is playing a future incarnation of the Doctor, plain and simple. I think the reason why the Doctor has chosen this face for 12, and it goes all the way back to the Fires of Pompeii where he met...
I want to say it's Calius.
Okay. That was a moment when Donna, who is basically acting as his caretaker, forces the Doctor to be a good man.
Right.
And that's one of those standing moments, and I'm wondering if his mind did not go back to that moment when he was regenerating, and that's why he chose the face. And I think if they are going to explain it in the show, I think it's going to be to something to that extent.
Yeah. I that sounds sound. To me.
And it bothers me that we even have to have this explanation, but since he keeps talking about good man, that's the only way I can see it being tied into what a good man is this is a moment when he was a good man, where he went back, saved lives that he wasn't supposed to, and was a good man regardless of history, in a sense.
Sure.
And he didn't take it over the top like he did with In the Waters of Mars.
Yeah. Well, the fun thing is, that Russell T Davies, when he found out that that Capaldi had been cast, he basically wrote to Moffat and said, hey, if you ever want to explore why he has the same face, I have a really good idea. And Moffat says, well, let's hear it. And they decide to go with it. So we'll see it. Yeah, maybe. It could very well be that we're going to get only that line, I feel like I've seen this face before. Yeah. That might be the only reference we ever get to it, a la the Time of the Doctor, where he just goes, oh, hey, all those major plot points for the entire run of Matt Smith, here they are in a 2-minute conversation, taken care of, good.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I think that's where we're going to go with that. But we have run our course. Do not worry, people. We gave you a longer episode this time, almost an hour. We'll get back into the Dalek and Missy because I think that's really important.
Yeah. After when we talk next week about episode 3 of series 8, Robots of Sherwood.
I'm very excited. Very high energy action adventure.
Mark Gatiss.
Yes, a Gatiss script.
New director, so that's what I'm actually really curious about is how we have these 2 great, well-directed episodes.
And also a different color palette for everything.
Different color palette, and Capaldi's changed his shirt.
Yeah.
So,
and also, we're going to also take a look at the two new issues of the comic that come out today.
Yes, I think they came out today. I think that's a great idea. I'm really excited to continue those stories. So all that and more when we see you guys.
Yes. And don't forget, check out Big Finish. They just released the 80th, the interview with Baker at his 80th birthday.
Yeah.
So far, very, very fascinating. So until next time, this is GPR signing off. Peace.